And what's really concerning for business owners is the business owners who are using Gmail, Yahoo, AOL for their main business emails, and then they're sending personal information like credit card information or birth dates or social security information, and those big systems get hacked or their email gets hacked, and then the bad actor looks at their sent emails and goes through all that, and then all that data that they've been transmitting, it's all out there for the take. So, part of compliance says use your business email and then secure the business email, right?
The two most important things a business may run into is staying connected and having their information protected. In this episode, we have Jason Hill and his company, J2IT Group. They're an MSP and experts in the industry. It's important to have a good IT setup, whether you're upgrading your existing platform or if you're looking to grow. But more importantly, you want to make sure that it is protected. We'll go over how fraud may happen and all the ways that you can protect yourself. Once protected, it's possible that your cyber insurance premiums may go down as a result of it. We hope you enjoy the episode, and this is the Cash Flow Chronicles Open Forum.
In relation to cybersecurity, how do companies better manage their private data when there's so much changes going on?
Yeah, it's really about starting to look at your front door. The front door is the biggest thing, and there's several parts of and ways that bad actors are getting in. You got to analyze how are bad actors getting in first, right? Email is the biggest, most used vector of how the bad actors are getting in. They send an email, and emails are also getting impersonated these days too. So where somebody says and looks at an email domain, and then they create a new domain and change one character that makes it look like something else, and then they imitate a CEO's or a high-level, high-ranking business person's email address, sends that to all their employees, which they can find very easily on LinkedIn, because all employees have their associated, company being, that company that they work for. So bad actor sends an email out making it look like it comes from a CEO. Here's a link, please click on the link to do a survey. They click on the link and then their information gets stolen based on just clicking that link. So being able to identify, first off, is identifying, and this is where education comes in a lot with employees, is educating people on how to identify what an email looks like that might be malicious. Cyber insurance is a huge part of the conversation as well, and education about anti-phishing and phishing, how to identify phishing attempts is really a big part of a cyber insurance policy. It's very important. So if people can identify, first off, that this looks like a malicious email, it reads like a malicious email, maybe I should call somebody and say, hey, is this a real email, before clicking on any of those links, right? So going back to your question though, how can people protect themselves? The thing is it's protecting yourself about letting the bad actors in for the first point, right? Email is the biggest factor. There's also ways that people click on a document, launches a program that they can't see, right? And then that's that can steal their information as well. So a lot of it starts at that level. And what's really concerning for business owners is the business owners who are using Gmail, Yahoo, AOL for their main business emails, and then they're sending personal information like credit card information or birth dates or social security information, and those big systems get hacked or their email gets hacked, and then the bad actor looks at their sent emails and goes through all that, and then all that data that they've been transmitting, it's all out there for the take. So part of compliance says use your business email and then secure the business email, right? New attacks are getting around MFA as well. So multi-factor is not the end-all be-all of.
But it's got to get properly set up, right? So you can have
absolutely.
So you can have multi-factor, but if they don't actually integrate, right?
True.
So for instance, if you have a fingerprint scanner, or you can use a password, that's not really multi-factor. That's
a single.
It's really single.
Yeah, it's really
right?
single factor.
So that's where I'm like, well, okay, you have these things, but they need to work together.
Right.
You can't use them independently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So setting up multi-factor, it is a checkbox thing, right? And they say anybody who's not using multi-factor, it's like your seatbelt. You really should be using it because it is the very first easiest method to begin securing accounts and securing, the email accounts that everybody uses, right? And the logins, for different things. Now, a lot of different services like Thomson Reuters.
Yep.
Thomson Reuters has their own MFA, right? And I think it's modeled after Duo, or they use Duo, and they say anyone using Thomson Reuters has to use our MFA. That's okay, but it's another app that somebody has to use. So there's fatigue. They say MFA fatigue is the thing. So when people get a code or they get a yes, the benefit of Duo is that set up right, you will have a yes/no button that pops up on your device that will say, are you logging in? Is this login verified? You hit yes. But sometimes people get those so often that they just hit yes because, hey, maybe my coworker's logging in and it's a login, it's my login. Maybe my coworker's logging in with it and I'm just gonna hit yes. But that's the fatigue people are having where they just hit yes, 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 or give a code because somebody asked for a code and then that's the last line of defense.
It really highlights the current state of cybersecurity and just managed IT right now. Is that because there's so many factors going on? I guess my question for you, as an established professional that's been in this business a long time, companies can't so rely on a third party to do everything. Is that a safe assumption?
Definitely. But a big thing is spreading the wealth around. So to rely on a third party, you put your trust and using their resources in your business, right? And if you utilize all of the resources and all of the parts and pieces of what makes your business operate and function, and they get hit and go down, what is your business doing? Very commonly, this happened with the CDK attack that happened last year. CDK is a big third-party services for the car dealerships, and they run 15,000 car dealerships. So when CDK went down, billing systems went down, CRMs went down.
For a week.
Phone system. It was like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
The heartbeat of the dealership.
We couldn't take our
software.
car in to get serviced,
Yeah.
right?
Because they couldn't. Yeah, it crippled the system.
Right.
It isn't just the financial statement. It's all the integration with it.
Right. It's all the other parts of the operations of business that gets taken down.
They couldn't even look up inventory.
Yeah.
Right. There's so many tools that those businesses entrust, that third party to use, but it's one method of, hey, my business operations is outsourced. One vendor does it really well. That's fantastic, right? But it's also putting all your eggs in one basket. So decoupling some of those services is really important to think about. Another instance was a local school system got ransomwared recently.
Yep.
And they were down, I believe, for 3 days right at the beginning of school this year. And the biggest reason why school was closed is because their video surveillance and access control system was on the network that was taken over. So what a lot of other larger enterprises do is they actually keep their physical security network physically separate, so separate network altogether than the normal data network where Wi-Fi is on and your computers are connected to Ethernet and your phones are on, right? So that helps separate, hey, let's keep some systems operational and even guarded more than the other systems, which you have to loosen the rein on to make people's lives easier for, not having too much security, right?
This harkens back to working in the insurance industry. Hey, we have this insured, we're good to go. I think being proactive and trusting the third-party experts to say, hey, these are things you need to do because the threat is very, very real. These are proactive steps, and you said parse it out.
Yeah.
Various protocols.
So what we've done in our business is, first of all, we work collaboratively with the customer. So if the customer has their own IT person, that's great. We work and do what's called a co-managed environment. So the IT director for that company can work with us and utilize our solutions that are MSP multi-tenant, because we have multiple customers and multiple customers run some of the same softwares. And what multi-tenant means is essentially we can manage all of our customers from one essentially pane of glass or one dashboard, but everybody is still separate in there. So what the IT director at the local company can use is they utilize our solutions that we have vetted and made and ensured that these are the best solutions for this product category that will do what we need, what the business needs. we have essentially there's thousands of different vendors for different parts and pieces of the whole cybersecurity portfolio. And what we've done is we've gone and vetted and curated the vendors that we want to use and make sure that the solution works, it's manageable, and it's repeatable, and we can support all of that, for multiple customers. One other thing that we do internally as well is what we call drink our own juice. We use the software solutions that we resell and we provide to our customers. So when there's an issue that happens, a lot of time we know what the problem is way before the customer actually realizes that there is a problem. And then it's a common fix across the board. So managing disparate solutions is common, and that's what helps standardizing essentially the products and solutions that one would use for their business is very time consuming, but it's very good to create a repeatable process.
I think from a scalability, you kind of mentioned where, hey, I have a really small business and I have one IT guy, or I'm not really sure if I want to add a second, but where I think your business can really help is you have different points of access. You have different industries, and you can see, hey, here's a new way that this customer hasn't been impacted yet.
Right.
If they were doing it on their own, they would have never recognized it.
Right. And a lot of times it's based on, because we service, we aren't dedicated to one industry either. We service customers in finance, in automotive manufacturing, in healthcare, in legal. So a good wide gamut of industry, and we support, all of the different technologies across those. So I like to say we're jack of all trades and master of a lot of them, because we are good at a lot of them, and a lot of the tools are standardized across the board because that's how we've built that out. So going back though to the co-managed IT and fully managed, and it works a lot like how a fractional CFO would work these days, right? They go in and hey, they have 16 hours a month to work at that business, and then they stack their schedule with other businesses. So we work as a fractional, or essentially as a fully outsourced IT. So, but we're very flexible with that kind of approach.
Would you say that's a differentiator in the managed IT space as far as how you're able to accommodate specialized packages? Because I know some companies have, these are our price points, this is our service.
Yeah, so really being flexible is really important. Some other MSPs out there are very, very rigid on, hey, this is it, use it or don't. Yes or no, do you want it? And being flexible, and it's hard because almost every opportunity is a custom deal. There's a lot of times there's within if we model after a new prospect, after another customer that we manage, we can find similarities in what they're going to use. But everybody, depending on what their line of business is, it has unique factors of how their IT works.
Yeah, and I think when you talk to a customer, I'm sure the analysis you go through, it's a pretty thorough analysis. It's like, well, based on our questions, similar to insurance, these are potential risks that we're looking at. Here's recommendations, different companies that we vetted.
Yeah, so let's talk about risks. I mean, the risks to business, not only cybersecurity, but how internet connected we are these days, right? Being internet connected, our phone systems run on the internet, our payment processing runs on the internet, our CRMs, our healthcare management systems, everything is internet based. If our internet goes down, what's the business doing, right? So starting out with looking at what internet carriers are you using? How reliable are they? Do you have backup internet? Do some businesses need a tertiary internet connection, a third level backup, a backup to a backup, in order to make sure that your internet is online all the time? And that becomes very expensive, right? That alone right there. But then also having devices that are intelligent enough to choose, hey, this internet's down, I'm going to use the backup internet, and then be able to flip back over. Especially with cellular, because a lot of cellular is billed by the gigabyte or by the amount of data you use, right? So you have to, if you don't want to get a $50,000 cellular bill at the next month, you have to make sure that your data is being flipped over appropriately.
I know Brad's jumping at the bit. Just a funny, Julianne, my fiance, she works in healthcare and she's working in my basement. We lost power roughly for like 20 minutes and she's freaking out because she's in healthcare, and obviously with HIPAA and things like that, you're on a special server. She's like, I gotta go into the office, and it's hourly work. So she's getting all dressed up, freaking out, and I'm like, you got to do what you got to do. I was talking about getting a Generac, like different things for like, she's like, when we build a house, we're getting that. So I have to, and ironically, she was on the road and like, hey, power's back. She's like, are you serious?
Yep.
Like, that's a very real scenario as far as if you're a business.
Absolutely, but you're also looking at how you have your in-person and in office workers and then remote. I don't think remote will ever go away. It's always been here. COVID amplified that effect, and obviously we all know businesses are trying to pull people back to the office because they want the personal, and they want to monitor and manage the people better, right? Because a lot of times what you don't see, you can't manage. So.
But, if you have remote people working in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, or wherever it may be, that experience, we'll say, needs to be the same.
It needs to be seamless. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter where you are, it should work. But there's times where, hey, if this person's remote, you can't get access to these certain things, or your IP address is recognizing, so you can shield it. But these are protections that you can set up.
Right.
Hey, these are non-trusted IPs. What's the vetting process to get it through? There's a checklist. Because one of the things that I was looking at was, I have customers that are moving that, hey, we have this particular service. My concern, you kind of talked about, backup power. One of the guys I had a good conversation with, he's in IT as well. He talks about how it's important to make sure that you have a good source of internet. You may actually be getting a residential getting pumped into your commercial. So again, call it bandwidth.
Right.
As I like to say, hey, you're trying to run a whole business off of a residential. That may not work.
Right.
I like to call it trying to run a marathon through a straw. Right. So if a customer is trying to move to a new location, walk me through kind of the process of what you're looking at when you try to either stand them up, whether it be, hey, we're going to put everything's going to be in the cloud and it's just going to be a bunch of switches or is, hey, we're going to do a partial setup, or it's 100% cloud.
Yeah. So new customers moving into new facilities is something we manage every day. We actually, at J2IT, we have a low voltage cabling group as well. So what we do is we start with, where do you need Ethernet wire? Where do we need to put Wi-Fi access points in? And where is your network going to go? So, we don't want network to be in a bathroom, for example. And a lot of times, I'm sure you've seen some crazy pictures online of where, people have found a closet of some kind that, where you can put the network. But yeah, other things we look at when we move customers in is, we can run their new address through a database and find all the different internet service providers that are available at that address. A lot of fiber providers, they may be close, and they may need to actually build and do construction on the utility poles in order to get fiber into the building. And sometimes the customer is responsible for paying some of those build costs.
But it may be worth it, right?
But
because it's going to be fast. It's going to be faster, more reliable.
Yeah, the reliability. Yep, absolutely, the reliability.
And it won't be shared possibly with your neighbors.
Exactly. So a lot of the Comcast business, or a lot of the basic business offerings are like your home internet is shared. A shared medium or a shared pipe. Where you get into dedicated fiber, you're going to pay 5 to 10x more, but you get and own that bandwidth in and out of the business. But it is definitely more costly. But there's also what's called an SLA on there too. So if the internet goes down, the provider is actually going to pay you money back because they guarantee a minimum amount of availability and uptime. So
I would love that from Comcast.
Yeah, wouldn't we all?
Your power went out.
Wouldn't we all?
Right? It's kind of like power. Well, now
DTE would be great. Except,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Living in Livonia, always looking at the outage map every weekend. It seems like it's
all trees, man. Trees are not your friend.
Right.
The electrical grid is not a problem with DTE, but just the grid's rather complex, needless to say. So quick question I failed to answer. We jumped right into the conversation into the IT space. So walk me through what led you to build J2IT.
So when really it was an introduction at first. So I was introduced to my business partner, John, who was looking for a retirement plan and a retirement strategy. He had a managed services company, small managed services company for 20 plus years, and was looking to grow and exit. I have been in working with computers and networks. Well, since I was old enough to probably walk, but I love computers. I love technology. You know, when I was in college, I learned about networking and how networks work. I went and got certifications, graduated college, and started working at an IT consulting company. And that's where I really grew my consultative approach to working with customers and being an advisor to their environment. So being an advisor, we can, has a different tone and abilities than somebody who works for a company, right? You can say that process or that strategy is not good and not have fear of retribution, right? Because that's what you're there, because they're paying you to be there and give your honest opinion. So that really kind of jump-started, my career. I focused a lot actually in the Wi-Fi space, and I did a lot of large-scale Wi-Fi designs and deployments, and helped very large enterprise-sized companies standardize their approach to Wi-Fi from through all different types of buildings. And Wi-Fi it's connectivity, right? It's just internal connectivity. But if people are relying on wireless voice over IP phones, which are very common in a lot of large manufacturing spaces and other places where people are just moving around constantly through the day and need a device for communication, they have to have the ability to take that device and roam from wireless access point to access point through an org and have that call be sustained with good quality. So that's really where a lot of my fundamentals and a lot of the love for technology came from. So as we built J2, we actually launched in 2020, and we were an essential business. So we helped a lot of people transition from working in the office to working at home. We used a lot of different remote desktop secure remote desktop technologies in order to do that. And once people started coming back to the office, we, in about 2021, we built and started researching what our cybersecurity portfolio was really going to look like. And this was us going and interviewing and testing different software solutions and looking at how are we going to implement these solutions and talk to our customers about these solutions so that they can protect their environments. So that really is, and really once we had the established cybersecurity stack, that was now everything else is kind of a bolt-on.
Let me ask, when you get engaged by a customer prospect, is it because, are you seeing it more of an expansion, meaning, hey, we want to add or protect our network, or is it because they had something happen to them?
A little of both. Expansion, or the realization that internally we can't wear this hat anymore. Right, our business is getting too critical to at a sustainable level where IT is really, really necessary, and we need to have professionals actually manage our networks.
Let them focus on their business instead of trying to.
You got it.
Piece it together and we'll make it work.
A lot of it is the brother's cousin, or a relative of the owner who's good at computers,
not an expert,
who has another full-time job, and in the evening times they help them out, or if something happens. But yeah, a lot of that that's a very common case. Is, hey, we've gotten to a critical mass point where we need to have a professional company actually help us and do it well, and then be there as a security blanket, if you will, for when something happens, so that they're ready. The other real big driver is cyber insurance, and we align very, very well with cyber insurance because we have the solutions that businesses need that get them more cyber insurance and reduce their premium. It's all about risk, right? When you have the solutions, your risk goes down because you have these protections that are monitoring your environment. And cyber insurance, really will give more coverage to the businesses who are showing that they are doing a due diligence to protect their assets. Really getting hit these days is not a matter of if, it's when. Correct. Right? So the faster a business can recover from an attack or from an incident, the lower the risk is and the lower the payout's going to be from the insurance company, because they're doing their due diligence to protect their environment and their business, right? And at $500 plus an hour to recover, that cyber insurance policy gets chewed up very quickly. One other really critical thing about cyber insurance and policies that are designed correctly is that they protect businesses from business interruptions. So from those third parties that you subscribe to and that run your business, if those a A well-tailored cyber insurance plan will be able to cover a business if a third party goes down and your business is not able to function that for a period of time, and you lose your you can't function with customers, you can't create product, and you essentially have a factor of loss because a third party impacted that.
And I think that speaks to the advisory approach, whether in banking, insurance, or even in IT. It's like, let's take a thorough analysis of your business. Here's recommended protocols, and it's going to bring down the premium significantly.
Right.
And taking a thorough analysis as an advisor, objectively, listen, I have no skin in the game. These are things that make sense for you. I'll be honest with you, for these reasons, this is a good option, this is a bad option.
Right.
I think that's very critical.
And the other thing is, we work with a company that's very, very well versed in cyber insurance, and a lot, it's a very mystical thing for a lot of insurance agents because they know cars, they know fire, they know theft and homes, right? They know those types of insurances very well. Technology is not a large forte of that skill set, and a lot of it's smoke and mirrors to the agents, and they don't, they're pushed to say businesses need this insurance, but they don't know really why. So we do a lot of education also with insurance agents.
Yeah.
The carrier that we work with can also work with insurance agents, where insurance agents will make some commission on what they provide as well. So we're not an authorized insurance provider, so we don't make any money from it, but we have the solutions that businesses need. So that is our shoe in for working with those customers and working with their cyber insurance. But a lot of our engagement methodology is starting with your cyber insurance policy and tailoring a managed IT contract so that it works well with cyber insurance.
So you talked briefly about employees being diligent and not clicking on things. As you said, it's like the number one way that a person could get in. So we talked about that. What are some other impacts that you're seeing, whether it be ransomware or whatever, and how can they kind of protect themselves from that?
Yeah, ransomware, it's similar types of things. The bad actors are getting into systems, a lot of systems that are internet facing, like Office 365 or a file share and sync program, where somebody wants to share files with their customers and they think they're doing it securely, but then a bad actor might find a vulnerability where they can essentially be what's called a man in the middle, so that they can gain access to that data and steal that data. A lot of filed sync and share programs have been hit and attacked lately. Vulnerabilities are a huge thing because a vulnerability can exist in your operating system for the computer, Windows and Apple. They can exist in the programs that you have on your computers. It can exist in your network, so the actual network devices. And one recent thing, the United States is trying to ban TP-Link as a vendor, and it's a very, very popular vendor because their home internet routers are cheap and they work pretty well. But there's some back-end thinking that because it started in China, this is a Chinese company, and there's Chinese that are now have backdoors into all of these routers that millions of people have. So if they have a backdoor and they say, hey, I want to gain access to these, and then they have the remote access to millions of these devices,
or they can turn it off.
They could turn it off. They could also launch what's called a denial of service attack. So they command and control is
which ports are open or which are going to be closed.
Not only that, but they can instruct all these millions of devices to say, I want to take down firstmerchantbank.com. I'm going to send a bunch of website requests to firstmerchants.com and then overload the server and break it, right? Denial of service attacks are happening a lot in the industry these days. Microwaves, refrigerators, home internet routers, all these internet connected devices have these vulnerabilities that are found and discovered. And when bad actors can then control all those devices, they can make them all do bad things all at the same time. So, and that's a big threat. Not only looking at data, but this is also creating an attack that will take down other popular internet services.
So one of the things where a customer of mine, they have a bunch of machines, right? So the new machines now have the ability to create monitoring pieces to it, right? So what they're trying to do is build a dashboard. They can get metrics and all this. So one of the things is when you have all these machines, and if I put them on Wi-Fi, it's sucking a lot of bandwidth up. So one of the things that they've looked at is to try to run Ethernet. So if their building hasn't been set up for that, now I got to go up and run things around. The concern, like you kind of mentioned, if it is on Wi-Fi or if it is running on that, somebody can shut that machine down remotely. Or on the flip, let's see, look at the good side to it. That third party or that vendor of that machine goes, yeah, I'll go ahead and, oh, you need an update, and they can automatically get in. So whether it be on Wi-Fi or
the
Ethernet.
medium doesn't matter as much anymore. I've done several offices that are 100% Wi-Fi and have removed as much of the Ethernet cable as possible. Setting it up and making sure that those devices are using modern and enterprise level encryption methods and authentication methods is really important, though.
Okay.
So essentially, but Wi-Fi, what Wi-Fi is built today with Wi-Fi 7, 6 and 7 out now, it can take a massive amount of capacity.
Okay.
So capacity is not as much of an issue. And actually the cable to that access point is now becoming a capacity issue.
That's the point of failure.
It's not only a point of failure, but it's a point of congestion.
Okay.
So now what we're doing, and we work with a lot of school districts as well. So schools have access points in every single classroom now, because they have one-to-one programs, right? Every student has a laptop. And what we're seeing now is because access points can actually take more than 1 gigabyte per second of data, you need to upgrade the line or the Ethernet cable to that device, and then look at also upgrading the network switches to do multiple gigs and have multiple gig data connectivity to the access point. So multiple gig is, they call it MGig, is a newer technology. It's been around for about 6 or 7 years now.
So it could be updating wiring, but it could be updating switches to help.
Yes, the switch infrastructure is definitely needed, and that's where the network infrastructure, and now with AI, is going to compound the amount of data on the network, on an internal network, that's really needed.
Okay. So we talked about man in the middle, right? So one of the questions I have for you is, somebody gets into a system, how long can they sit and wait, or is it really quick they're going to get in, or are they going to sit and watch emails, watch how they're responding to it?
Happens very often where a bad actor will dwell in a network for many months and watch what's happening and watch how the interactions between devices are happening. And then it begins scanning the network and looking at what devices can it see just from the one computer that it's on. Another thing that it'll do is it will run commands to essentially dump the credentials that are stored in that computer. So if IT set that computer up and they put a backdoor account or a local administrator account on that computer. So let's say that computer is not connected to the network or anything. IT needs to log into the computer so they have an administrator account on the computer. The bad actor can run a command that will essentially show all the usernames and passwords that are on the computer. Now, if that username and password for the administrator is the same one that's used to access the file server, or a global admin in the Microsoft 365 account, that's a password that can be looked at and used elsewhere around, and that's how a large infiltration really happens.
Can you see, as an IT professional, can you see if you have a man in the middle that's monitoring?
There are ways. First of all, there's signatures of files that show as malware. That's really the first level. The next level is looking at and watching what commands are being run on a computer. So like that command that would be used to dump the credential database. That's a command that's very well known, that could be used for nefarious reasons, that if monitoring is on the computers, that an alert will be generated so that event can be looked into further. Okay. So things like, the computer, so antivirus on computers is now called a new term. It's called EDR, endpoint detection and response. And what endpoint detection and response really does is it looks not only at, is there malware on a computer, is there files on a computer that look like malware, and stop that from executing or doing what they're supposed to do, but it looks at other things like network actions and the commands that are run from a computer, and it will alert on those. Now, what cyber insurance really likes and what's better for managed IT and what managed services providers do is they take it up to the next level and call it managed detection and response. So now an alert happened, what next, right? Now what we need to do is act on that alert and take in and remediate something on that machine, because something is about to happen. It's scanning, it's looking, and it might not happen today, it might not happen next week or next month, but there's something scanning that's doing some nefarious scanning. And we need to look at what is doing that, what is happening, and shut that down. And what managed detection and response does is these are a lot of MSPs utilize third-party services for what's called an outsourced security operations center. Setting up your own security operations center, for a lot of larger orgs do this, but it's a very expensive acquisition to do. So a lot of managed services providers use third parties that have very good cybersecurity experts working for a company that they service multiple MSPs. And these alerts funnel up to them, and they can then say, are these alerts legit? Or does it look like something bad is happening? And they will then, if something bad is beginning to happen, they will quarantine the computer, stop that computer from talking on the network, and then put a ticket into our queue that says you need to go and look at what's happening on this computer. It might just be a reset that we need to reset the computer and clear out anything that's bad, but it might be something that now has propagated to other devices in the network, or servers, or file stores that are lingering out there, and a larger inspection might be needed.
I think I saw a meme on, because of Cybersecurity Month, right?
Yes.
And one of the memes was, you have that bad actor computer, and it was a little cartoon that unplugged it and says, there, we're done.
No. Yeah, no.
Once you're in the network. So it's very clear, managed IT very, very well. Would you say it's rather technical when you try to explain some of the variables in play to, let's say, a president or CEO that's trying to run their business, and you're like, hey, this is what we need to analyze? Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, because there's so many very technical aspects of cybersecurity, because it touches so many different things. It touches the applications, it touches the SaaS providers that you use. It touches payroll, it touches accounting, it touches HR, and every one of those areas needs to be treated a little uniquely, right? So essentially demystifying cybersecurity for a C-level who's really focused on making sure that their business is successful. And there's a cost to cybersecurity. A lot of it we're relating to insurance these days. Some of it, and also like an unfunded mandate, right? You need it. You should have it. Yes, it's going to cost your business money, right? But if you don't have that insurance policy and you get hit, what's going to happen?
You're not going to be able to operate.
Right.
Yeah.
And the cost of a claim not being paid as well.
That's a very real thing. Yeah. So if boom happens, you go to file an insurance claim, and they run their due diligence. They run scans and look at how did this happen, and they see that if something was incorrectly selected on their audit form when you went to apply for cyber insurance, or you were actually, negligent, they may deny the claim altogether. And that's a very scary thing.
I've seen a lot of that in cyber insurance, unfortunately, because as a business owner, you put your trust in the insurance advisor, and they may not be an expert in that industry.
Right.
And they're just looking at, hey, I'm your advisor, but having a true vetted resource like you, I think, is hypercritical.
One of the things that we do, and that's actually mandatory for a couple industries, is called a written information security plan. And this is a document that goes through, and a lot of times what we like to do is do it after we deploy cybersecurity for customers, because why spend money on doing a plan if you don't have anything in place, right? So we want to put cybersecurity in place, or at least in partially in place, and then have a roadmap for what are we going to do, because a lot of times you can't throw a ginormous amount of money into it and afford it and then have the manpower to actually implement, right? It needs to be done over time. But what a written information security plan is a document that we help write with the customer, and it looks at not only what technologies are in place, what assets are in place, how different services are in place that help the business run, but also looks at what types of policies that are more people policies. What's your retention policy? How do you destroy documents? Do you use a third-party shredding company to destroy these documents? Or can somebody go sift through your garbage and find PII data, personal identifiable information, that is literally in the garbage, and then be able to utilize that? So having this written information security plan, a document that shows what they have, what they're going to have, maybe in a roadmap. It's a document that a business can share with their customers, with their vendors, and also their cyber insurance companies to say, hey, we're doing our due diligence here, and we're doing what we can to protect not only our systems, but customer data. And customer data is what is so valuable. Records of PII that are sold on the dark web and the dark net, those are that's half the battle of what people buy in order to try to get into Chase.com, Huntington.com, Amazon. They try to take those usernames and passwords and
brute force to get the password to get in.
You got it.
So
Exactly.
so you talk about the process, right? They should have it printed out and not actually just on the system. Right?
Well, they say actually your cyber insurance policy actually should not be digitally stored, because a lot of times what happens is that a cyber attack happens and they can now see.
They know the policy.
They see the policy, and they can come in and say, you have $1 million policy, I want $1 million ransom,
Right.
but then that doesn't leave any money for recovery.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the personal responsibility in cybersecurity that we talked about. Yes, as a managed IT provider, you can provide recommendations, but there's protocols you have to do as a business as a part of that as well.
Absolutely.
And that's the part.
Which a very common, another common document that we do with customers is called a shared responsibility plan, or a shared responsibility matrix. So it outlines all the different IT related tasks and who is responsible for what. Yes, the customer does have some skin in the game, and there's some things that they need to do in order to help us do our job better. But there's some things that a customer wants to do to take the the cost of us doing it off, right? But it needs to be outlined and documented.
And that's a containment protocol. So what can we do to maintain the realm of control within our assets, provide a guardrail?
Right.
I just heard that analogy last night, so it's really helpful. These are containment strategies to prevent all the external
Because, I mean,
variables.
be honest, there's a lot of things to look at when, for managing technology and people and process, right? And who is responsible for that. Having that defined as well leads into, when boom happens, having an incident response plan. Having that plan in place and practice it. That says, if we go down, something gets ransomwared, our email goes down, or a server gets taken over, business is interrupted, what do we do? How do we handle what the next steps are? Who are we going to call? Do we need PR, right? Is the ransomware actors going to blast on the internet, hey, we've taken over a company and we've stolen all their data and we're holding them hostage and they're not paying, so we're going to release this data. So what does that PR look like to the business now that is going through that incident, right?
Right, and don't wait either. So
Right.
hey, if you know there's an incident, call your IT people.
Yeah.
Call the
Absolutely.
insurance company,
Yeah.
or just don't.
Yeah.
Don't hide when and don't be embarrassed that it happened. It's like the sooner you can engage people,
Right.
they can help.
One of the most important pieces that I've heard in recent memory is, if fraudulent wires happen all the time, and you're probably very familiar with this.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI can help, even if it's an international wire. And if you mistakenly do a wire, or were tricked into changing an account number or something where you're sending that wire of money out, and you realize you've done that, you can call the FBI and they will work to recover that wire. The most important thing is speed, making sure that people haven't, the bad actors haven't taken that money out already. But I've heard stories that they were able to recover wire transfers that were even international and pull those back.
Yeah, the example I had, 35 minutes, they got hacked, money went out, we saw 2 wires. We were able to quickly react. We saw where the wires went. We had the IP addresses, everything on our system we could see. Reached out to the other bank and just said, do not release those funds. And we got it all back, except for $30.
That's okay.
I'll take it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So 2 questions in closing. We just wrapped up Halloween. What is your go-to candy?
I love Milky Ways, and I'm a type 2 diabetic too, so it's really bad for me. But I do.
So the
love,
minis for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do love Milky Ways.
Had a conversation with leftover candy. I'm like, oh, they're small. There's little calories in those.
Yeah. Even with being a type 2, I love sugar though. It's so bad, and
What's your go-to, Brad?
Twix. I like a good Twix, even though Snickers are good too.
I had a conversation last night, the top 3 candies, and she's like, 100 grand, what are you, 60 years
I
old?
love those though too.
They're so good.
Smarties are another a close second. I love
Pure
Smarties.
sugar.
Yeah, but
That's just a fun theme. In closing, what do you want the listeners to know, or how can we help you in totality after this conversation?
yeah. So I mean, we support businesses of all from usually from 5 users to large over hundreds of users. So whether they're starting their business journey and looking for an IT company to help guide them with technology, or they're 10, 15, 20-year-old or older companies that are kind of do a reboot of of branding or something of that nature, we can come in and help provide guidance and advice to start with of different ways that we can help them. Helping is, we're always there to offer help, and first and foremost, right? And educate about what types of things are out in the environment that businesses really should be cognizant about, and things that due diligence businesses need to take in order to get a cyber insurance plan or be successful with their business with technology. That's the biggest thing is, we offer that for free, education and advice, where businesses need to have very good communication with a support team and have support happen quickly because their business depends on a computer to function in order to take a call or run a transaction. We have a support team that's and a help desk that's ready to support those businesses.
And that help desk is on site, correct?
Yeah, it's all US based. It's here in Farmington Hills.
Excellent.
Yep.
So yeah, reach out to Jason. I strongly encourage it. As mentioned, it's truly an advisory approach, as with anybody we have on the Cash Flow Chronicles. I appreciate everyone's time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thanks.